last year we had Andreas and Dennis from Merck with us in person to talk about their rollout of FIDO. They were fantastic. Well, I know Andreas was here on site with us. So I don't know, some people had visa issues getting here, including them, but they were kind enough to record a session for us. So I know I'm going to ask you to watch TV, but I promise this is going to be a really great and insightful presentation. It's really about going passwordless without needing to leverage fallback, a phishable fallback method. So take it away.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our session. I hope you're all doing well. Today, I'd like to start by asking you a couple of questions. Imagine reaching into your pocket. Do you have a wallet with a card, like a credit card? And more importantly, do you have a security key with you? Unfortunately, due to travel restrictions, I cannot see your responses. But my guess is that most of you have a card, while only very few have a security key. Even though we are at a FIDO conference. Well, you are at a FIDO conference. Now, you may be wondering, why are these questions relevant to us? Well, in our company, we prioritize the enforcement of passkeys. We exclusively allow sign-in with passkeys, eliminating other methods of multi-factor authentication completely. When WebAuthn is not supported by an app, we automatically leverage the standard browser instead of integrated web views. However, two significant challenges remain. The first challenge is when the standard browser is inaccessible, for instance during the iPhone enrollment. And the second one is we are faced with the dilemma of protecting multi-device passkeys. For instance, if a passkey is stored on an Apple device, the user must then possess a security key or card to safeguard the sign-in into the Apple account. Otherwise, the access to the passkey itself is not phishing resistant, only the one to our company. Consequently, each user requires a security key or card. This is obviously not intended for daily sign-in, as we can utilize the device unlock mechanisms like face or fingerprint recognition or a simple PIN. But instead, it's just a recovery method for the enrollment of the iPhone, for instance. While we have invested in numerous security keys that have proven to work very seamlessly, we struggle with the worldwide distribution and the user ability to hold on to such a key. And if they don't have a key during the recovery situation, then they cannot work. And if they cannot work, then they demand legacy MFA. And that process is all that a bad actor needs. Now, let's circle back to my initial questions. Why don't we all have a card with a TPM chip in our pocket? Why hasn't a bank sent us such a card that can be used for all our accounts, even for a company like ours? This one card, this one single card bearing the bank's name would never leave my pocket because it's connected to all my accounts via the open industry standard FIDO. Furthermore, I find it very perplexing that laptop producers consider NFC as something outside of the standard. If enforced FIDO authentication is expected to be the future in all companies, every device should be equipped with NFC capabilities. These are the 2 points. Do you have any better solution in mind? If so, discuss it and share it with us. But before you do any of that, let's dive into our presentation and hand over to Dennis.
Thanks, Andreas, and welcome to our talk, also from my side. I would like to introduce you to important key points and principles on our passkey journey. Starting with the first point, enforcing passkeys during sign-in is very important, because having conventional MFA still available means that the users are vulnerable to downgrade attacks, resulting in the problem that the user can still be phished. Only the enforcement of sign-in with passkey unleashes full phishing resistance. The goal is to secure each and every application with an authentication that is only possible with passkeys. Second point, once the sign-in is strongly secured with passkeys, attackers will look for other opportunities. They will search for the weakest link in the chain. Often that's the case for onboarding and recovery. Because passkeys are not yet registered or cannot be used for whatever reason. Therefore, onboarding and recovery flows need to be heavily secured. Ideally, they are also phishing resistant. That is the reason why we need a sophisticated identity verification in front of these flows. Third, and very important principle, we decided against a software as a service solution where the passkeys are stored by a single provider in the cloud. That is something we don't want. Our primary guiding principle is to own the credentials and to own the authentications. We want to have full control. That brings, for example, the capability to promptly respond to attacks, ensuring that we are able to proactively take action instead of waiting for others. Moreover, by avoiding reliance on authentication services from large product vendors, we reduce the risk of being part of widespread breaches, which attract attackers aiming to infiltrate a large number of companies simultaneously. Since there was no off-the-shelf solution available with all of these principles in mind, we started our own development journey. Andreas, can you elaborate a bit about our challenges on that journey?
Okay, so you heard him. Our main objective is to enforce passkeys for all human accounts, ensure secure onboarding and recovery while maintaining full control. Now let's delve into the challenges we have encountered along the way. Please note that these challenges are of a broader nature than the ones mentioned at the beginning. Firstly, standard products often rely on onboarding processes centered around passwords, or they depend on a single identity verification provider. This again increases the risk to fall victim to supplier breaches. Additionally, recovery processes are handled differently and involve service desk personnel, instead of utilizing a unified automation for both onboarding and recovery. Good. Secondly, the enforcement of passkeys requires a solution for apps without WebAuthn support. And there are many out there. Some apps are likely to be resolved in the near future, like the iPhone enrollment or Microsoft apps on iPhones. However, the vast majority of apps may never receive the necessary updates. Thirdly, there are apps which don't even support MFA. These basic authentication apps exist within the intranet and cannot be fixed centrally. Those apps must be addressed individually, and if they don't have plans to implement modern authentication, then a general solution is required. On the bright side, we can still enforce passkeys. In our case, those basic authentication apps don't use the central IDP, but the on-prem Active Directory. Okay, Dennis, I'm curious to hear about the solution.
Sure. First part of the solution is a credentialed self-service application, which provides a comprehensive solution for onboarding and recovery. Specifically designed for registering passkeys without relying on existing credentials. Managing credentials is a highly security-sensitive task. Therefore, the verification flow includes multiple steps. The goal is that the initial step is not susceptible to phishing. The verification process is adaptive, depending on the user's capabilities and context. we are choosing always the strongest possible authentication flow which is available for the user. Examples of verification methods include microtransactions to bank accounts, requesting verification from a trusted colleague, authenticating via SIM card verification, and so on. Secondly, I want to highlight our authentication flow, which is implemented centrally at the IDP level. We developed custom plugins for every identity provider that is used in our company. These plugins leverages the centrally registered FIDO credentials on our self-hosted FIDO server. Because we own these credentials, we do not have any vendor login. To enable strict passkey enforcement, all applications must support the FIDO standard during the authentication flow. But many web views and legacy applications do not support WebAuthn. Therefore, the user cannot log in with their passkeys into these apps. We developed a detached authentication flow. With that mechanism, the users are able to authenticate with passkeys in a phishing-resistant way, even if the user needs access to apps with legacy web views. The detached authentication flow leverages a WebAuthn-ready browser from the operating system. Unfortunately, there are very few scenarios where the user has no access to a browser and the web view is not WebAuthn ready. For example, enrollment into mobile device management of an iOS device, or scenarios where the user needs to connect to VPN before logon. But what about legacy applications which cannot be connected to the IDP via OpenID Connect, SAML, and Co? This question brings us to the third part. We can enable FIDO sign-in also for these applications by utilizing an identity-based proxy. The entire traffic to these applications is routed through the proxy, and the proxy is responsible to authenticate the user before forwarding the traffic. Therefore, also these legacy applications can be secured with passkeys.
Okay, that's it. But before you leave, let's take a moment to highlight some key challenges we have encountered. Firstly, we require device-bound passkeys. It would be really helpful if the device public key extension is released and implemented soon. Secondly, we enforce passkeys. We require all FIDO Alliance companies to add WebAuthn to their applications. Our detached authentication mechanism is helpful, but it is not as convenient as the standard. Thirdly, cards and keys are convenient authentication methods across various devices and platforms, but we really don't want to handle logistics. We would love to see big players like banks to start shipping credit cards with FIDO support, so that we can then use those cards for our sign-in and fallback mechanisms. Fourth, users will add passkeys to security keys and cards. We require a solution to create a PIN on mobile devices. Currently, this is not possible. Fifth, security keys and cards need to work with all devices. It would be really great if laptop producers start thinking about NFC as a standard feature instead of talking about dropping this feature in general. That's it. I think it is all we wanted to say, Dennis. If you have anything, if you want to chat, I hope there is a chance that we can chat with you via the app of the FIDO Alliance. And otherwise, see you on LinkedIn or any other method. Thanks. Bye-bye.
See you. Bye.
That was great. They can't hear us, but I feel like I need to tell them.